This talk is unique in two ways. First, it's among the first TED Talks ever to be filmed in 360 virtual reality. So in case you get tired of looking at my face, you're more than welcome to look around the studio I'm in and the paintings and the other artifacts in the room and just listen to my voice. The second way that this talk is unique is that I've been asked to go beyond the standard TED motto of ideas worth sharing and instead focus on a value worth sharing. Today, the value I'd like to share with you is a concept I call tuning and how we can live more productive, happier lives by learning how to manage our own memories and experiences. So what is tuning? Tuning is a way of managing your memory. As we get older, our memories accumulate and ultimately help to form the core of our identity and how we relate to the world. If you can actively manage those memories and learn how they shape you, then you can start to maximize your harmony that you feel inside you, around you, and beyond you. But before we dive into that, let me please introduce myself. My name is Nima Veiseh, and I'm an academic researcher focusing on sustainability and systems. I'm also a professional artist and a socially conscious clothing designer. I have a rare condition called Hyperthymesia, or HSAM, also known as highly superior autobiographical memory. It means I can recall every moment of every day of my life as if it were film. Now, people who study this condition have confirmed only about 50 cases worldwide, so there aren't too many of us. I've had this condition for over 15 years, but I've only started talking publicly about it this year. That's because I've realized that, just like for everyone, my memory and my experiences help to shape who I am and how I see the world and how I create my art. Today, I hope to share my challenges as lessons for you in navigating your memory. One interesting aspect of hyperthymesia is that everyone with the condition seems to have a trigger, something that sparks this ability. Scientists haven't exactly been able to figure out why it happens, but it seems that some sort of important moment or event in people's lives sets it off, like perhaps a death in the family or the first day of school. My memory started on December 15th, 2000, and it just happened to be the day I met my very first girlfriend, or I guess when love and interpersonal harmony became a focus of my life. Living with hyperthymesia means that I remember life not like photographs or flash frames, but in terms of film or VHS, with all the sights, sounds, smells, joys, and pains that go with every moment. And here's the biggest difference between my memory and yours. Think about the clothes that you're wearing right now, how the fabric feels against your skin, the color, what was going through your mind when you picked them out, any anxiety or anticipation for the day. Do you remember, though, what you wore yesterday? How about last week? How about 6 years ago on the same day? I do. And not only do I remember what I wore, but if you're with me, I would remember what you wore too, and where we were, and what we talked about, and all the other times that you'd worn that sweater before, and what you were doing and how we felt, and so on. And this means also that I won't forget you either. Now, having a near-perfect memory isn't all fun and games. In fact, forgetting is something that scientists are finding may have developed as an evolutionary advantage. Most of the information we take in is distractive and largely not useful for survival. Now, typically, the more important something is to you, the more quickly you can recall it, and things that aren't as important either get buried or forgotten. While your memory has a garbage bin, mine does not. I just keep storing. And the challenge of manually sorting through and managing all this information is what has taught me tuning. It's easy for most people to recall important or traumatic events in their life. For example, think about where you were on 9/11. Where were you the first time you heard the news? Who told you? What was the weather like that day? Were you running late that morning? Most people don't remember September 10th with that level of detail, but September 11th? Absolutely. So for me, to put it bluntly, every day of my life has the same impact on my memory as 9/11 had for other people. Every moment I experience is a blunt force trauma that imprints itself in my memory. I don't have the luxury of mental shortcuts or heuristics to help tell me that one data point is more important than another. I can recall every moment in my life equally. The important memories don't surface faster than the benign ones. I can recall and re-experience waiting in line at the grocery store just as easily as I can remember the sensation of being at my favorite concert. My brain's filing system doesn't prioritize my memories for me, so I'm forced to teach myself how to manage overwhelming amounts of information and thoughts and feelings. Because while your emotions and feelings fade over time, mine don't. But we all go through overwhelming situations and things that are important to us and important memories, from a breakup to a passing of someone close. And being forced to deal with these moments in real ways has given me the tools to live happily and productively through this concept and practice that I call tuning. And if I can teach myself how to deal with this information overload and to manage the distractions that come with it, and to try to be present in each moment, I really believe I can teach anyone. The best example of how I'm forced to tune because of my condition is through the age-old saying, forgive and forget. Now, because I can't forget, I must learn to genuinely forgive, not just other people, but myself as well, which is often harder. Now, practicing tuning is what has helped me to adapt, and ultimately, forgiveness is the reestablishing of a connection, a way of finding growth and harmony through that connection. Now, my memories are subject to the same biases as anyone else's, and can obviously distort how I remember things. But because I retain more data about myself and the things that happen around me than the average person, I do get to see a bigger picture than most other people, and can hold a mirror, albeit perhaps a mildly distorted one, up to the world around me. I want to be your mirror to help you reflect too. So, tuning is the act of embracing the connections within and around us, managing our blind spots, and finding the resonance within everything around us. So there are 3 specific ways in which I use my memories and experiences to help me tune myself to the world. These are intrapersonal, interpersonal, and extrapersonal. Intrapersonal is the relationship you have with yourself. Interpersonal is the connection with your friends, families, coworkers, and other people in your life. Extrapersonal is the tuning and connection and empathy you share with those you haven't even met yet. Each of these ways of tuning and these ways of managing my memory are the ways that I use to help me adapt. And shortcutting these connections and filling in these blanks can accidentally rob us of the growth opportunity or the ability to see the situation holistically. It will hurt your ability to tune. So let's think about intrapersonal connections, your connection to yourself and your own value system. Now, your own value system or your way of prioritizing your memories and experiences, whether it was imparted to you by your parents, community, or other social pressures, you still have a way to tune to yourself. And the most common way this manifests is through your work and the passion with which you pursue it. We fall out of tune intrapersonally when we haven't aligned ourselves externally with our internal values. One example of how I've refined my tuning is working as an academic, because I enjoy breaking down the world in terms of data and systems and through my research. I like discovering the harmony in these external systems, and it helps me find harmony ultimately within myself. And we often do things that we're quote-unquote good at, but we actually tend to think of life backwards. The reality is that the things we love and the things that we're good at are actually things that we remember better than others. Our passions reveal themselves to us. This way, we just have to listen. I became an academic researcher precisely because of my memory. My memory gives me a unique, relatively large raw data set that I can use when looking at design and sustainability of the natural and economic systems around me. If you love making cakes, for example, it's something you'll happily obsess over until it becomes your primary preoccupation, and then perhaps eventually your real occupation. The important thing to realize is that you are enough. Your passions and the way that your memory shapes your world is part of who you are, and you should never make yourself think otherwise. Now, while my career started as an academic researcher, as a way of discovering my passions and finding a way to tune intrapersonally and find my intrapersonal harmony, there are 2 major ways that we are connected to the world, both interpersonally and extrapersonally, in the same way we all are. And I went about exploring also how I can practice tuning myself to those. Interpersonal connections are those you have with the people in your life. This tuning is about reconciling yourself with the energy of those around you and the memories that tell us that we should feel happy about this person or sad about this person, and the shortcuts we make in our judgments toward people. We fall out of tune interpersonally because our memory is filled with extremes. Someone did us a big favor here, or they broke a promise there, and we over-rely on those moments in order to tune ourselves to those relationships. I didn't even pick up a paintbrush until after college, and now I'm a professional painter. I've been very fortunate to have my work featured in the BBC and NPR, and to be able to talk about my unique painting method. Basically, what I do is, I take a memory, moment, or natural phenomenon, maybe my love for a person, listening to someone play guitar, or watching a sunset, and distilling that into a single point in space and time, and then exploding it as a real-world artifact on canvas. Since my memory allows me to remember nearly every dimension of a moment or connection or relationship, I'm able to break that memory up into many little parts and layers, and then delicately translate it onto canvas as a beautifully and completely tuned harmony. Extrapersonal tuning is the connection and empathy you share with those you haven't met yet. The empathy you feel towards Syrian refugees you see on the news, and the connection you may feel to someone you admire, like Einstein or LeBron James. We fall out of tune extrapersonally because, again, we have a lot of distractive data that keeps us from harmonizing with the world around us. We have the news telling us what's important, textbooks telling us what to think, each giving us one angle to a story or system that has more moving parts than we could ever keep track of. To help with our own extrapersonal tuning, I recently founded a socially conscious clothing line called Dress Abstract, which is built on my experience and tuning as both academic and as artist. I've been fortunate enough to have traveled to 40-something countries so far in my life, and during those trips, I noticed brilliant women and men in each of these places who were experts in fabrics and art. And you too may have seen clothing items in shops and gifts made by talented locals during your own travels. I saw a chance to harmonize art, fashion, and sustainability through an innovative way of thinking about clothing. I didn't want to approach clothing as just fabric, but rather as high art, as you may say here. I wanted to give clothing a chance it deserves to be enriching and intelligent, and also for the creation process to be a harmonious, sustainable system, from start to finish. So to start, we use technology to translate the work of artists from canvas to fabric, because after all, clothing is just another canvas. At the same time, we're socially conscious in that our products are either handmade or assembled with the help of refugees or displaced peoples who were fabric experts in their home countries, but otherwise wouldn't have their opportunity to practice their own intrapersonal passions. When you force yourself, or are forced, as I've been, to confront the reality of the harmony or discord around us, we start to automatically tune to the world around us. And then you can't deny the suffering that they must feel. And you feel compelled to take action your own way, like volunteering your time for a cause. And that's what helps you to tune extrapersonally. So why does tuning seem to get harder as we get older? And what does it have to do with memory? And what can we do about it? I'll try to answer this with a metaphor for memory, aging, and tuning. A perspective I'd like to share with you that I know you can take with you wherever you go. Now, imagine you're alone, treading water in an ocean of your memories. There's no land in sight, nothing to grab onto, so you're forced to continue to swim. Every drop of water is a memory or experience that you've had, and as your life rains down experience upon you, it accumulates in that ocean beneath you. And whether we like it or not, those traumatic experiences and memories create waves and currents, most of the time that are unnoticeable, that push us this way or that way while we're treading water. For example, let's say we're in elementary school and I get a bad grade on an exam as a 10-year-old. I feel ashamed, there's this public pressure to perform, and I have this sickening reaction in my gut. I'm like, I can't believe that happened. I got this terrible grade. But then, 10 years later in college, I get a bad grade on an exam and I get that same sickening reaction. And I'm like, man, where did that come from? And I realized that it's actually referencing back to my childhood. And of course it sounds like a cliche, right? You go to the doctor's office and the shrink says, oh, it's going back to your childhood, and that's what you're referencing. And in a large part, it's true. Everything that's faded deep into the past gets put into that ocean of the subconscious. And ultimately, we are the average of our most recent memories. And this is what makes up the upper layers of that ocean. And the distant memories are what make up the deeper parts. The problem is that tuning requires us to be able to see the entire ocean, not just across the waves, but to the ocean floor as well. Now, how does this ocean get to be there, and how did I get to be this way? So let's take a step back to our childhood, or even further back to when we were babies. When I look in my baby cousin's eyes, I see someone who's just absorbing the whole world and all this data completely, unabashedly, and fearlessly. And there's no ocean there. They're just absorbing. They're seeing the rain and the light come in from the sky from all these new memories and experiences that are just absorbing it and raining down on them. Then, by the time we hit childhood, we start developing friendships and insecurities. And there's been enough rain and memory accumulation that we feel like we're kind of treading in 10 feet of water in the subconscious. Now, let's fast forward to adulthood. Now, there's all this dark water under us, and you can't possibly see to the bottom. There are all these accumulated lost memories. And ultimately, what does this mean for us? We overthink it. And the more water we have to tread on, the more overwhelmed we feel. But the important question I'm proposing is this: how much more energy does it take to tread in 1,000 feet of water than in just 10 feet of water? And the answer is 0. It's the exact same amount of energy. Because all we should ever be focusing on is the top layer or first few inches of water. The problem is that we psych ourselves out and we get in our own way. And we have all these subconscious memories and all these social pressures and all this angst that gets accumulated deep in our ocean. And as the sea level rises, we expend more energy panicking as we get older trying to keep our heads above water. Now, this is not to say that as adults we don't have accumulated responsibilities and the growing responsibility of caring for ourselves or perhaps a family. But in the end, the process is the same. We're always focused down in the dark water under us and what might be lurking there. The memories that we can't access that still affect us and cause us to not hear the right tuning. So ultimately, what we need to do to become better at tuning is to be mindful and aware of the incomplete, distractive data in our own head, those currents and waves in the ocean below us that push us along. So what I'd like to leave you with is the following. Instead of treading water, worrying about the rain that keeps falling down and making the ocean deeper, the waves that might crash against us, stop fighting the depth and bring your awareness back to the surface of the ocean where you are by turning around and facing the sky and ignoring the dark water under you. And that's how you can best manage your memory from getting in your own way and getting in the way of your tuning. Because ultimately, if you let the superfluous data distract you, it's going to prevent you from tuning intrapersonally, interpersonally, and extrapersonally. And that will get in the way of you achieving your harmony with the world around you. And you hear this countless times in movies, and books, songs, and every media that exists across cultures and religions. Carpe diem, be present, be mindful. Life is precious, life is short, be present. So what I can tell you is, when I look into my own ocean and look back at my memories and my struggle with how to tune myself, in the end, the most important thing is to always bring yourself back to time zero. Bring yourself back to now, to that top inch of the ocean water at the ocean surface, the water you're actually floating on, in order to align yourself better with the future. Everything below that is the past, and everything above is the future. So if you stop worrying about treading water and fighting the past, and you just turn over and look up at the sky and face the new memories that comes with it, it doesn't matter how much water is under you. Then you'll be able to easily tune yourself in the 3 major ways and find yourself more productive and prosperous, because you won't be exhausting yourself focusing on past memories and issues that distract you from resonating with the world around you and becoming your best self. So go out there and create. You can't stop the flood, you can only rise above it. Thank you so much for listening. I look forward to meeting you soon, and have a wonderful day.